Interstate 94. Yeah. All right, we are talking about Interstate 94 westbound today. It's one of the great interstates, one of my favorites. It's the longest interstate in the country that is not divisible by 5, and it is awesome. So, let's take a look at the route. We see we are going from Port Huron, Michigan, just a bit beyond Detroit, to Billings, Montana, by way of circling Lake Michigan. This is the YouTube channel where we talk about interstate highways and the places that they're signed to go to. If you dig this kind of content, why not give us a like? And if you're really into it, why not subscribe? Yeah, subscribe. And I should mention you can request your exit for a $5 super sticker, $5 super like. Just get at me in the comments and you can make a request. It has been awesome so far. I really appreciate all the love, and we've got a few in this episode to talk about. We are going to be doing I-95 starting next week. Any sort of 95 requests are still open, so please, if you have more 95 requests, let me know. All right, we're going to talk about westbound I-94. Here we are in Canada, and this is the Blue Water Bridge to the USA, the start of I-94 and I-69. We saw this very same thing in the I-69 video. Here is the actual bridge, the Blue Water Bridge that we cross to get into Michigan. And once we cross, we get 94 and 69 for Detroit and Flint. After that, we get welcomed into Michigan, the state of Michigan, pure Michigan, nice sign. And we get this interesting little quirk where for a while 69 is signed westbound along with I-94. 69 exits off the main line. We get 69 for Flint and Lansing, but we do not get a pull-through for I-94 at this point. At random interchanges, no surprise, it is Port Huron and Detroit listed here. And here is our first exit request of this episode, exit 257, the Fred W. Moore Highway. This was requested by Stephen Culps. Thanks a lot, appreciate you, buddy. And now we get 696 west for Lansing and 11 Mile Road, so we're 3 miles north of 8 Mile. This pedestrian bridge marks the entrance to Detroit, but we don't get a Detroit city limit sign here. We meet I-75, signed for Toledo and Flint, and now we just get 94 Chicago, no direction listed. Here is the Lodge Expressway. This was requested by Alex Jones, who also had many other requests. We'll talk about that more later, but I appreciate all of the requests. Get another 94 Chicago, and we are meeting 96 with Control Cities of Bridge to Canada and Lansing. We meet US 12, and certainly not for the last time, we will be meeting US 12 a whole lot along this road. Certainly won't be showing every time. And now we are getting a west on the pull-through sign, 94 West Chicago, and we are getting 39, the Southfield Freeway. This was also requested by Alex Jones. Adrian Leskiw, I hope I'm saying that right, wanted to see the giant Uniroyal tire that is on the side of the road, so here it is, right at that Southfield exit. We meet US 24 Telegraph Road. A little upset they don't have Lawrence, Kansas as the control city there. And we meet 275, signed for Toledo and Flint. It's the largest loop that mainly goes around Detroit, although it doesn't go all the way around. Here is US 23, south for Toledo, and for north it's getting Ann Arbor. This is kind of the major Ann Arbor exits. Here is the route to downtown Ann Arbor, Saline Road, but I was not able to see any major University of Michigan things from I-94, though I did look. Here is where we merge in with Michigan Highway 14 on the west side of Ann Arbor, and this was also requested by Alex Jones. Here is exit 167 for Baker Road and Dexter. This was requested by NightWalker, so thank you so much, I appreciate that. And here's our mileage sign. We see Chelsea, Jackson, and Chicago. We're meeting 127, which is a freeway in Michigan, and it's signed for Hudson and Lansing. West 94 Chicago and 69, we're meeting again for Lansing and Fort Wayne, and tiny I-94. I'm guessing that is the 94 business route. And now we're getting Battle Creek 10, and Kalamazoo and Chicago are the next cities there. That is good signage. Here is I-194 for downtown Battle Creek, and this is also Michigan Highway 66. And here is our business loop for downtown Kalamazoo. We're meeting 131, which is also a freeway in this area, so North Grand Rapids is a very fitting control city for it. South Three Rivers, much less famous place, but this is acting as a freeway here. This was also requested by Alex Jones, so thank you, buddy. Appreciate it. Here we're meeting 196 and North US 31 for Holland and Grand Rapids. On westbound 94, I was not able to find the exit for southbound US 31 for South Bend. The construction was there, but the signs were not yet in existence. And now we meet Business Route 94 for downtown Benton Harbor. This will also take you to St. Joseph, Michigan. And here we've got Glenlord Road. Road I've been on many times. Was the only stoplight on Red Arrow Highway up until downtown St. Joe for a long time. I've actually ridden a bicycle across this road when I was a kid. And here is exit 23, an exit very near and dear to my heart. Red Arrow Highway and Stevensville. It's also an exit for St. Joe, but they're not listing St. Joe because you would have gotten off earlier to go to St. Joe. This was requested by King X Bond X 007 with a $50 tip there. So I really appreciate that. That is awesome. And I gotta say, sir, you've got excellent taste in exits, as this is a very wonderful exit and a personal one for me too. All right, I'm skipping ahead. We are going into Indiana. Welcome to Indiana. It's our last time entering Indiana, so I suppose I could make one more Benjamin Harrison joke. But they have the Lincoln Boyhood Home thing too, so that's cool. And now we are getting Westville, Gary, and Chicago on the mileage sign, so that's well done. We're going to be meeting I-80 and I-90, but we actually cross them before we have the interchange for them, and then you can see the 94 interchange a little further down the road there. And here is the actual overhead sign for it. We get 90 Toll Road to Chicago Skyway. It can also take you eastbound toward Toledo, but you probably wouldn't be getting on it to go in that direction. But the movement is possible to do. And there you see 90 Toll Road to Chicago Skyway, and they're also mentioning that it's 80 East. We don't get any pull-through signs at this point telling us that we're going to be on 80 West, but we are. Here we meet I-65, sign for Gary, Toll Road, and Indianapolis, so that all makes sense. That's well done. And on random interchanges here in the Borman area, Borman Expressway, we get 80-94-6 for Chicago. Meeting US 41 Calumet Road, and this is the last Indiana exit. Looks like there's a lot of construction going on right now. And then we'll be on the Kingery Expressway in Illinois once we cross there. We get a welcome to Illinois both in the sign and on the bridge. We've got business to take care of as soon as we get into Illinois. We have the interchange for 94 West Chicago's 394 South Danville, and going straight will get you on West 80 and North 294 Tollway, Wisconsin, Iowa. I always think Iowa is a weird choice instead of Des Moines, but what are you going to do? And you can see when you do get off of that ramp that you get a second chance if you decide you actually want to stay on I-80 or 294. You can get back there even if you originally exited. But we still are going to follow West 94 for Chicago. Here is our South 394 for Danville, although as I said, it will end at Illinois State Highway 1 well before Danville, but that highway will continue on to Danville, and 94 West Chicago. US 6, 159th Street, and we get a nice West 94 Chicago ahead. I love those Chicago ahead, Indiana aheads that they just have in this little part of Illinois. Here is the International Port of Illinois on Lake Calumet. I remember passing this a bunch of time as a kid on our way to Michigan or Indiana or wherever, and always thought, well, we're on our way now. We're meeting I-57, which is signed south for Memphis. I doubt too many people are getting off 80, taking 94 up, and then taking 57 south all the way from Memphis. But we do have that Stony Island Avenue Expressway that we would have met. So it is possible that people could be getting on that and then taking 57 all the way to Missouri and then on to Memphis. Got to be at least one person, right? And here where we meet I-57, we also have the start of the CTA Red Line. So we see the rail yard for that right here. We're heading north on the Dan Ryan. We get 76th Street. This is my dad's old exit from when he was a kid. We don't have a direct connection with the Chicago Skyway, so we get a 290 East Chicago Skyway via State Street. This exit 3/4 of a mile, Marquette Road, which is an exit that when I was a kid I drew all the time for some reason. I don't know. I was obsessed with this 290 East Chicago Skyway thing. And here is the actual exit for Marquette Road that will take you to 90 East, and we will continue on 9094 West through downtown, and we will also split into local and express at this point. Quite a massive sign here covering the local and express lanes. We're going to be meeting I-55 shortly, so we're getting North 55 Lakeshore Drive is coming soon. South 55 St. Louis is coming a couple miles down the road. Love this railroad split too, driving through Chicago. This railroad split that happens just right before it crosses the freeway and you have 3 rail lines that were all parallel, splitting in different directions. We're getting to the 35th Street CTA stop for Sox Park, although on this side it says Illinois Institute of Technology, because that is what's on the right side of the freeway. The park is on the left side of the freeway. We're going to be meeting 290 downtown pretty soon, but first we have an exit for 55 South for St. Louis. And we get a pretty good view of the skyline here as we jog over toward the Kennedy Expressway. Here we are under the Circle interchange, and you can see ramps going all over the place here. We're meeting Ohio Street, which is sort of a little freeway stub to go to the near north side, and 9094 is signed for Wisconsin from this point. No more are we signed for Chicago. 90 and 94 split right at Montrose Avenue, so now we're getting 94 West Milwaukee and 90 East O'Hare and Rockford. Go up the Edens, and we are going to get a split for 41 North. Waukegan will follow the Edens Expressway, although it'll stop being limited access very soon. And 94 will jump over to the Tri-State Tollway and take over for 294. Here's our toll that we pay before we get onto the tollway. And we've got Half Day Road here. I always thought that was a funny exit, just because it seems so far out. I lived in the city, and it seems so far out. It's like, what, it takes half a day to drive out to here? And we're getting Grand Avenue again. We saw this before. This was requested by andykillsu. This is the Gurney exit. So we have Great America. And oh, there's a Wolf Creek Lodge, an indoor water park right there in Gurney. That's going to put Wisconsin Dells out of business. That's their whole thing. Now that we get to exit 1, the free exit, we're off the Tri-State Tollway at this point. We are now signed on 41 North. It just comes out of the ether, and suddenly we're on 41 North along with 94 West for Milwaukee. And Wisconsin welcomes you, so we move on to Wisconsin. Random interchanges, we get Chicago and Milwaukee, so that is well done. Here we are just north of the airport, and we are meeting I-41 and I-43 and 894, which is entirely part of 41 now, so probably should just go away. 41 is signed for Fond du Lac, 43 for Madison South at this point, even though it's not going to Madison, and 43 North, 94 West for downtown Milwaukee, even though 94 is what will take you to Madison. Here we've got a requested exit, 310C for 794, the lakefront. This is from Carlos T, so I really appreciate that. Thanks so much. And now we are also getting 94 splitting off for Madison, and 43 will continue north to Green Bay. Little bonus content for Carlos T. As we go on the ramp there, we get a great view of downtown Milwaukee, and we see 794 heading over toward the lakefront there as well. Here we are back at the Zoo interchange. We mentioned this on the way here in the eastbound video, and Eric Thompson requested seeing this interchange. So here we are again. Thank you, I appreciate that. And we are meeting I-41 again for the last time. We get North 41 for Fond du Lac and South for Chicago. And we are now 94 West Madison. If you're merging in on the Zoo interchange, this is what it looks like. You have to merge pretty quickly because you're going to be on an exit-only lane if you stay in the merge lane here. And we see at random interchanges, it is Madison. We get to the Madison area, we get South 39 and East 90 for Janesville. And North 39 and West 9094 for Wisconsin Dells and Eau Claire. So Eau Claire gets put up on that thing instead of La Crosse. Kind of interesting there. I would just sign it Wisconsin Dells and Minnesota, personally. And just like before, we are going to skip the 9094 concurrency. You can see that on the I-90 Central video, which is right here. And we are going to be on 94 West Eau Claire St. Paul, which is fine signage there. 90 Toma La Crosse, not so fine. Should be La Crosse Rochester. Random interchanges, it is Eau Claire that is signed. And I feel like signing Eau Claire going this direction, not quite as bad as going the other way, just because you have a bigger in-state draw right down the road with Madison. And they do put Eau Claire on the second line, which is where it belongs, because it really is kind of more of a secondary than anything, in my opinion at least. St. Paul on the bottom line. When we get to Eau Claire, we meet US 53, and we are now signed 94 for St. Paul. This is pretty interesting. If you were pointing this out to me, we've got South 53 on this interchange, 94 East, we get Madison and Chicago. So a Chicago call out this far away. I've not seen that before, and that's great. There ought to be Chicago signage here and there all the way to Minneapolis, in my opinion. And now we've got Hudson as our secondary at 58 miles away. St. Paul is on the bottom line. We're meeting State Highway 65 for River Falls, so you can go down there if you want to check where Chiefs Training Camp used to be. Lovely town anyway. And we've got Exit 3 for Hudson and River Falls, two towns that I've spent a little bit of time in, and this is Steve Manfred requesting this interchange, so thank you so much. And at this interchange we get 94 west for Hudson and St. Paul. It's Hudson because of State Highway 35. And then east for Eau Claire. Because yeah, we are shortly concurrent with State Highway 35 as it goes north for Hudson here at Exit 1. And then we cross the St. Croix River into Minnesota. We get no welcome to Minnesota sign, which doesn't seem very Minnesota nice. I suppose it could be somewhere and I just didn't see it. And here is our first exit in Minnesota. Now on 94 west for St. Paul and Minneapolis. And we are getting exits for South 494 and North 694. I was told that the reason that we have two different numbers is so that they could both be signed eastbound or westbound and, not like a loop thing. But I don't know, it seems to work in other cities. People in Kansas City and Atlanta and Charlotte and plenty of other places seem to be able to figure it out. So I feel like Minneapolis people are smart and they could figure that out too. We're meeting 35E and it has no control cities whatsoever, so that is annoying. And now we're going to be meeting South 35E and we have the sign for US 52 blanked out, but this is where we become concurrent with US 52 for some time. And it basically completely disappears. In fact, right away we're on East 94 and US 10. I don't know why US 10 gets up there, but US 52 doesn't. Like US 10 is somehow more important? Come on, US 52. Here is the state capitol in St. Paul, and you can see 94 right below that overpass there. Now we are heading into the Minneapolis area soon, and we get University Avenue here, 94 with no control cities at all, could be Minneapolis. Cross the Mississippi River, and we have Minneapolis right there, nice view of the skyline there. And then here we can see the Minneapolis skyline along with the Vikings Stadium right there. Here we're meeting South 35W, again, of course, no control cities, and 94, 394, still no control cities. I really don't know why they don't just put something. Here's a nice building that we pass as we go along through downtown Minneapolis. And from this angle in the distance, we can see the Twins' new ballpark, so that's cool. Kind of annoyed that the Royals lost to the Twins. I'm taping this right after opening day, and it would have been cool to see us win the first game. At long last, we get a control city, and it is St. Cloud. Well, St. Cloud is better westbound than it is eastbound because you have Minneapolis going eastbound, so it's silly to do it eastbound, but westbound, I suppose, Fargo isn't really that much bigger than St. Cloud. And here we have End 694, Junction 494 in 2.5 miles because they are switching carriageways there. And here we have our actual split. We get West 94 for St. Cloud, 494 for nothing. And at random interchanges, it is St. Cloud for I-94. They do put St. Cloud on the second line once we get closer to it, once we're only 25, 35 miles away. But Morehead is now on the bottom line. I don't like the looks of that. And oh man, 94 Morehead. What are you doing? I mean, yeah, Morehead is a major-ish city in the Fargo metropolitan area, but Fargo is infinitely more famous, and Fargo is like where the real downtown is, and Fargo has more people, and they're 2 miles apart from each other, so that is extremely provincial. That's like Illinois signing East St. Louis or something like that, except Illinois never actually signs East St. Louis on an overhead sign like this, so this is awful. Awful. Random interchanges though, we don't even get Morehead, we get Alexandria, so Minnesota. And if I ever redo the Todd Ranks Midwest, Minnesota is going way, way, way further down than where they were. And here we have again Morehead on the bottom line. Should be Fargo. And then, once again, here in Alexandria, we get Fergus Falls. We do get a Fargo sighting here. We get Fargo instead of Morehead on this sign, so that's good. But really, all of them should be like that. And here in Fergus Falls, it is Alexandria and Morehead that are signed. Shout out Perkins. Thanks to you guys for letting me graduate college by letting me sit and study for 10 hours at a time while spending $1 on coffee. Good times. And at the next mileage sign, it is still Morehead on the bottom. We finally get our exit for Morehead, US 75 Morehead, exit 1A. And at US 75, we at last get a sign for Fargo when you literally have to go to Fargo if you get on it at that point because there's nowhere else to get off before Fargo. And we cross into North Dakota. We get this lovely North Dakota welcome sign up on the overhead, so that's cool. I-29 in North Dakota's only real interstate junction. It is signed for Sioux Falls and Grand Forks, as it should be. And we see if we get on to 29 that 94 is signed west for Bismarck. So that is good as well. And at random interchanges, we get Bismarck 183, Fargo 9. Bismarck is on the bottom line, as you would expect. And now we will say goodbye to US 52 on here at exit 256 in North Dakota. Here we are in downtown Bismarck, and we get the Bismarck-Mandan exit, which is technically 194, which is the Bismarck Expressway, and West 94 now for Billings, which is spot on. Let's take a look at 194. It's not too long. So we see Bismarck Expressway. We have our first exit for Main Avenue, and then we get an exit for Mackenzie Drive and Mandan, and Bismarck Expressway straight ahead. We cross the Missouri River on that, and we can see the North Dakota State Capitol there in the distance, and 194 will end at this stoplight. Going the other way around at that same stoplight, we just get a 294 sign instead of 2194 or 2 Bismarck Expressway, and our overhead we just get 2 I-94, and Bismarck and Mandan are the next exits. Get an exit for Bismarck and Mandan, and still on the overhead, 2 I-94. Meet back with I-94, we get West 94 Billings and East 94 for Fargo. We also have a fairly major exit here for Main Street in Bismarck, and we will continue west on 94 for Billings. Now at random interchanges, we're getting Bismarck one way and Billings 409. Wow. Dickinson makes for a great secondary, definitely the largest city in western North Dakota, and Billings as the bottom line at 408. After Dickinson, we just get Billings 318. They don't even bother with any other small North Dakota or Montana towns along the way. And now out here in western North Dakota, we have this Medora exit, and also just beautiful scenery out there too, the North Dakota Badlands. And welcome to Montana. We enter Montana right here. And here we get Billings and Bismarck, so Montana is holding it down as well. Billings, the last city on the line, and Glendive is our first secondary in Montana, so that makes sense. Here we cross the Yellowstone River, which is the path we follow through Montana, pretty much following this river. Now we're getting Miles City as our next secondary, Billings still on the bottom line. And then we get Forsyth as a secondary and Billings on the bottom line. So that's kind of our last major secondary. It's the Yellowstone River in the Forsyth area. This is kind of right by where I went camping one time, so nice spot, as you can see. When we get to the Billings area, it is 90 West Billings because we are still outside of Billings at this point, so it does make sense to sign 90 for Billings. East 90 for Sheridan, And here's what it looks like as 94 merges into 90. All right, let's take a look at Todd's the way it should be for westbound Interstate 94. I'm going to say it should be Detroit, Chicago, then Wisconsin in Chicago, and then Milwaukee after splitting from I-90, then Madison and Wisconsin Dells, then Minnesota, I would say, and then until the 90 split, and then at the 90 split, Eau Claire and St. Paul works. Then just St. Paul, Minneapolis, one we never actually get. Fargo, although I can be talked into St. Cloud going that way, but then it should be Fargo after St. Cloud for sure. And then Bismarck, and finally Billings. Alright, thank you so much for watching this episode of Control City Freak. I really appreciate it. We will be back next week with the start of some small, obscure interstate that most of you guys have probably never heard of, so that should be fun. Alright, thanks so much. I really appreciate you watching, and I will see you soon. Until then, keep on trucking.